Welcome to another production of ParkTV 16 Sports on location. Tonight we are back for the second consecutive time at St. Louis Park High School and their gymnasium, where the Orioles are taking on the Royals of Hopkins High School in this non-conference matchup featuring two prolific high school athletic teams. And we are happy to say that St. Louis Park has a perfect record coming into it, 6-0. And if you were joining us in our last broadcast just last Tuesday, they won a barn burner in 5 sets, winning by just 2 points against St. Michael Albertville. They are in the middle of a 3-match homestand. After tonight, they will be taking on the, well, I had it right here, Robbinsdale Cooper. So they had St. Michael Albertville last Tuesday at home. Tonight they have Hopkins, and then Robbinsdale Cooper trying to keep their undefeated streak alive. Tonight they are in black, they are on the right, and Hopkins will lead it off. And unfortunately, I don't have a program with numbers for the Hopkins players' names. The one they provided us here didn't have numbers, so I'll do the best I can, but I do know the names of the St. Louis Park team, as we've been here for the 3rd time this season, and we're underway 0-0. And the ball now back, that's number 17, Hannah Howell for St. Louis Park. Kendall Coley bumps it over. So long point here to start off the match, and there's a nice spike by number 8. And we'll try to get the names connected with the numbers, but I have no information on any of the numbers and the names. I have names, but no numbers in my program, and I have numbers on the floor, but no names. So we'll do the best we can, but that's number 1. And they're up 1-0 here early. We'll see if St. Louis Park can not have suffer a letdown after that very exciting loss against a very good St. Michael Albertville team. And we're here, and point number 2 goes to the Hopkins Royals. Number 10 makes a nice play there at the net. Hopkins definitely has some serious height along that front line just by eyeballing them. Especially number 8 looks at least 6 feet tall. Probably more. And number 1 now going for a 3rd point. Nice serve directly over the net, no spin on it. And there's a nice spike attempt, and it's in by number 8, Addie Ward, the senior. Libero gets St. Louis Park on the board, and here is that play. Well, that was the previous point by Hopkins, and now back to serve. Their most successful server this year so far. Number 15, Michaela Winward. And there's a tip attempt by number 10, and she's unable to get a hold of it and kind of fanned on her attempt there. And the ball didn't really go very well, so we're tied at 2. And back to serve once again, Michaela Winward, number 15, senior. And she gets it in. Hopkins struggling with that. They're going to have to save it, and it just barely makes it over the net and catches St. Louis Park off guard. Boy. They let a point get away there, and Hopkins now edges out to a 1-point lead, 3-2 early on. Best of 5 here. I'm Robert Christensen. Glad you're with us. We're streaming live at ParkTV.org. We have some new equipment that allows us to do that in more locations, so glad you're with us. You're in for an exciting volleyball match, that's for sure. St. Louis Park is a much improved team with a ton of talent. And there is evidence of it right there on that spike by number 15, Michaela Winward, on the front line from the right side. Excuse me, that was number 4, Faith Johnson, delivering the point to tie it up at 3. Now back to serve number 9, Elsie Berglund, the sophomore. Look at that serve, folks. That was great, and that results in a point. Unable to handle that serve was the back line for Hopkins. And so Elsie Berglund, there she is, number 9. Now has their first lead at 4-3, serving for the 2nd consecutive time. Look at that jump serve, folks. That is something else. Hopkins handles it this time. Strong shot to the back row, handled nicely there by number 8, Addie Ward. And there is the spike and the point by Hannah Howell, number 17, on the near side. Able to get the kill shot. Look at that nice set up by Winward, number 15. Perfect set led to that point. Now, oh, they gave that to Hopkins. I must have missed something. I thought they called that in unless there was a violation at the net I missed. So it's tied at 4, and that ball out of bounds. So Hopkins now up 5-4. So back and forth here early on. As we mentioned, St. Louis Park is 6-0 coming into it. Back to serve, that's number 8. Again, if you're just joining us, I don't have names for the Hopkins players. We'll try to get those maybe after game 1. I'll try to run over to the scores table and see if we can't figure that out. And there's a nice block attempt. Now Hopkins gets another chance. And here comes Faith Johnson, and she does get number 4. Might have been going out, but number 4 tried to play it, and it went off her wrist, and that is a point for St. Louis Park. We're tied at 5, and here's Faith Johnson in the headband there. Look at her jump, and that ball might have well been out, but it was good enough to force number 4 there to make a play on it. And now Addie Ward, number 8. Nice serve, goes deep. That also might have been out. Hopkins, their spike attempt by number 13 on the front line left side, goes wide right, and now it's 6-5, and Addie Ward looking for the ball back there. There she gets one. Serving at 6-5. The Hopkins record coming in is only 2-1. They've only played 3 matches, while St. Louis Park has played 6, and that might play some role in the outcome as well. Quite a few more games experienced this season for St. Louis Park, and they get that next point there as the ball goes out of bounds. Number 14 tried to play it, but they set it up, and you can see the set was not in the ideal position for number 14. A little forward, and caused her to hit it out of bounds. So St. Louis Park now up with a 2-point lead, and Ward a little strong on that, goes long. So possession of the serve will go back to St. Louis Park, or excuse me, Hopkins. And Park has a 1-point lead here in game 1. Now to serve number 12. And right into the net. Point for St. Louis Park, 8-6. So they're off to a pretty decent start here. Hopkins hanging tough. I'll note also the bench of Hopkins, it's very thin. They probably have 6 less players overall. St. Louis Park has plenty of reserves, and they are not shy in substituting in situational. And that serve goes out of bounds. Or no, the serve was inbounds. Hopkins hits it out of bounds. And so now St. Louis Park opening up a 3-point lead, and that's Faith Johnson, the junior outside hitter in the headband, going to serve again. So St. Louis Park, I've been singing their praises this year. I've been watching these girls play now for the last 3. This is my 3rd year doing their volleyball matches, and I've watched them come up as sophomores and freshmen, and I thought they would be getting good right about this time, and they are. They are a fun team to watch as they let that ball go out of bounds. 9-7, now back to serve number 13. Again, I don't have the names. I have names, but no numbers, so I'm just gonna be calling out their numbers until I update that information. Now St. Louis Park, and that's Hannah Howell delivers the kill shot from the near side. Perfect set again. I didn't catch who that was, but most likely it was Windward. Number 17 got the kill shot, but who got the set? Yeah, Hannah Howell back to serve. And it's a 3-point lead, and they all jump serve.
Am I in the way?
Now there's a spike, Faith Johnson, now Windward to Elsie Berglund, and she goes to the far corner, saved in the back row by Hopkins, and now a big spike attempt goes long by number 8 on the far side front line, unable to find the distance. And it's a 4-point lead for Hannah Howell and the Orioles, and now we have a timeout taken by the Hopkins Royals. And probably not a bad time. They don't want St. Louis Park to get too far ahead here. Coach for the Royals, her name is Vicki Swenson. She has an assistant coach named Bailey Zimprich. So they'll talk it over as we look at the St. Louis Park sidelines. The cohesiveness there. Arms around each other, the reserves surrounding the players that are playing at the moment. Coach in there talking to them. I'm trying to think, they've been playing fairly well, serving well, have a 4-point lead, and now we look at Hopkins. A little less cohesive looking there. And a much thinner group of women playing. Only 4 reserves, and I think there were about 9 or 10 reserves on St. Louis Park. So Park looking like they have the stronger program just based on numbers during that timeout, and now we're done with the timeout, and out comes Hopkins. Usually these timeouts have a nice effect on the server, and they usually get the point back, not always. just to stop the momentum that St. Louis Park was on. And now Hannah Howell going for her 3rd consecutive point from the service line. Number 17, the junior, gets it in. Hopkins from the back row, number 13, hit that kill shot. I think they had another hit on their side, a little premature perhaps by Hopkins, and now it's a 5-point lead, so the timeout did not stop the momentum. Hannah Howell back to serve again for point number 4 in a row. And it goes long. I will say one of the things I've noticed that I think is a huge impact on St. Louis Park's success has been their service percentage in. Obviously, we don't keep those kind of stats here, but just by how it feels and looks, they are getting most of their serves in as that one goes long on Hopkins. And those are unforced errors, and they've really cut down on that from the last couple of years that I've been watching them. And that can have a huge impact. All right, now in to serve, their specialist, Olivia Lanesbury, the junior. She comes in just to spot serve, and they'll usually rotate her out, and she's had a nice game against St. Michael Albertville, and she gets another point. You can see why Coach Whitney Mirato Simon has her in there. And now St. Louis Park has opened up a 6-point lead at 14-8, game 1. Lanesbury to serve, 2nd consecutive point, and she gets it in. Make them play it. Hopkins looking a little confused. Chance here for St. Louis Park, and Kendall Coley just misplayed that, number 12. Their prolific kill shot and just mistiming of the jump there. She might have been a little far from the net. Maybe could have cheated up just a little bit before she made her leap at that ball, but that's very unusual. In fact, I can't ever remember that kind of miscommunication happening there. So I doubt we'll see that in again this match. And nice job by Windward. Boy, she can do everything. From the service line, she's the setter, and at the net, look at this very experienced play right there. She saw the height in front of her, and she just went to the left and was able to score the point on a much taller player for Hopkins. And Windward now back to serve, and she gets it in, and Hopkins able to get that point more by, I'd say more luck there, because here's that bump, and it just went right where the net is. Nice play, though, by that young woman. Number 12 for Hopkins. Keeps Hopkins within 5. Now back to serve number 4. Nice serve there, and a chance for Berglund, and she gets blocked at the net. And another point for Hopkins. So they are hanging tough, and they do have some size along that front line. I would say that they are bigger in height-wise. And look at Berglund. Look at the form on her. She just throws her whole body into that kill shot. And she'll try to tip one over. Saved by Hopkins. Howell with the diving save. Now Berglund again, blocked at the net. And the save this time. Kendall Coley makes up for that mistake last time and delivers the point at the net as she goes straight up. You can see her on the right side, anticipating, and she goes straight up without touching that net and puts it right back in the Hopkins player's zone for the point, and that ball sails wide. A lot of adrenaline out there. I would say that's the main reason why they go long. So Hopkins now down 4, back to serve, number 8. And that ball, Howell digs that out nicely. Chance for Hopkins, though, over to the near side, blocked at the net, saved by Hopkins. And we got a whistle and a neutral zone violation by Hopkins at the net. Someone either crossed the line or touched the net there, and that results in a point, and now it's 17-12, 5-point lead, matches their largest of game 1. Coley now comes out for St. Louis Park. Back to serve, number 8. That is Addie Ward, the senior. And she gets it in, and she scores a point, and it's a 6-point lead, their largest in game 1. Very warm here in this gymnasium. Unseasonably warm day here in St. Louis Park, and we have another timeout by Hopkins, and I was wondering if they were going to take one out here, and they did, as St. Louis Park is now just 7 points from victory. They played a 25, opening up their largest lead as we look at them on the sideline. As I was saying, it's very warm in this gymnasium. What impact that'll have on the players will remain to be seen. But these gymnasiums in these older schools, the schools probably built in the 1960s, retain the heat. It was almost 80 degrees today in Minnesota, gorgeous summer-like day, and the heat, as we look at some of the players for Hopkins, they're underclassmen teams, JV, B squad, 9th grade teams, they all play together. They've probably been playing volleyball. These matches start at 7, but there's a good crowd on hand for St. Louis Park. The crowds here, the home team for St. Louis Park, have been much larger. There is definitely excitement building around this St. Louis Park High School girls volleyball team, and there's good reason for it. They are very, very talented and will compete in the sectionals later this fall. Okay, out of the timeout, Addie Ward, number 8, back to serve, the senior in the white jersey. And she gets it in again, and you can see that percentage is awesome for St. Louis Park, as now they have a chance here. And that's windward to Howell. Sounds like a law firm. But it results in a point for St. Louis Park volleyball, and they are now 6 points from the victory in game 1. 7-point lead. Hopkins has not scored in quite a while now. Ward now going for her 4th consecutive point on serve. And she gets it in again, and a chance here, and as it goes out of bounds. Basically an ace on that serve by Ward, and she'll go back, and they're at 20, 8-point lead. And that ball's in again, off the ceiling. That's live, just like the Metrodome in baseball. You play it off the speakers and everything else. And Kendall Coley, or no, Reagan Alexander this time, number 14. Haven't mentioned her name yet tonight, but she is another prolific frontliner for the Orioles, and you can see why right there. Look at the height, the leverage, and the power on that kill shot. And Ward now trying to close it out here. Just 4 points from game 1. That ball's in. And the tip attempt by number 14 for Hopkins in front does not make it over the net. And now Ward and the Orioles are 3 points. There she is. Addie Ward really on a roll here. She likes to pound that ball. One thing I noticed about her serve, she keeps that arm up. Watch how it's up and it just stays there. And that's why she's accurate. It takes a lot of the variable out of that serve. And we have a whistle and a violation on Park. In the neutral zone is my guess. One of these days I'm really gonna know what those violations are. I just know it's a net violation or a neutral zone of some sort. All right, now back to serve, trying to stay in the match. Number 12 for Hopkins. And St. Louis Park is 3 points from victory in game 1. She gets it in, Berglund, nice bump there. Now the set and the deliver. Nice block by the Royals. Ball at the net, Howell with it. Now windward to the far side to Faith Johnson. Net's blocked and unable to be saved. Nice play there by the Hopkins Royals, as they stave off the loss here. And look at this action. And then windward, the behind the back set and the spike by Faith Johnson. But the nice block there, the tandem, results in a point for the Royals. Now Howell, windward, back to Howell, and she dinks it. Well played by Howell. The server, number 12, was unable to come up and close that gap, and she placed that perfectly for their 23rd point. And now back to serve, Faith Johnson for the Park Orioles.
If you have study hall, feel free to stop by and get a slice of pizza in the cafeteria.
Got some PA announcements going on during the match. Something new. Advertising pizza in the hallway. Plenty of room for more folks, but we do have a good crowd here on hand on both sides of the stands. All right, we're back underway. Faith Johnson, the junior to serve. And that's an illegal hit by number 12 by Hopkins. That drew the whistle, and now we're at game point in game number 1. So St. Louis Park picking up where they left off after last week's exciting match against St. Michael Albertville. Faith Johnson here serving for the win in game 1. And they're gonna have to earn it, and they do. Front line, Reagan Alexander and Michaela Windward block it for the 25th point, and your final score after game one, 25-14. Come on back for game number 2.
Sometimes there's no do-over. Some things you can't rewind. That's when an extra safety step could mean the difference between a close call and a call to 911. Simple steps save lives. Learn more at poolsafely.gov.
Welcome back to ParkTV 16 Sports. On location, we are bringing you non-conference girls varsity volleyball action, and we are about to begin game number 2. As you can see on your screen, St. Louis Park took game number 1 easily, 25-14. They come into this match 6-0, trying to extend their unbeaten streak, and we're streaming live at parktv.org, so glad you're with us. I'm Robert Christensen. We're live on YouTube, excuse me. Producer Paul Broden just informed me, so we have some new technology that allows us to do that on YouTube. And we're about to begin game number 2. Michaela Windward to start it off in black on the left side. Hopkins Royals on the right. They're 2-1 coming in. And they are down 1 game in this best-of-3 match at St. Louis Park Gymnasium. And this is point number 1. And the set to Elsa Bergland gets blocked at the net, and she saves it, and it's right along the net, almost too close to play there. And so the first point goes to the Royals in game 2, and they win the serve. And if you are just joining us, unfortunately, the information here at the gymnasium, the official program doesn't have the numbers next to the names. And so we're just gonna have to call out the numbers, so forgive us for that. And back to serve is number 1 for Hopkins, and she gets it in. Nice job. Over to Faith Johnson. Didn't get everything on it that she wanted, but it was enough to get the point. And Park now gets their first point to tie it at 1, and now back to serve, number 9, Elsa Bergland. Just a sophomore, but boy, can she serve. Look at that, bang. Now the spike attempt goes long by number 8. And you can tell on your screen that she's quite a bit taller. Angles can be deceiving, of course, but she's way over 6 feet and a dangerous player out there, to be sure. But so far, St. Louis Park's been able to manage that okay as they won game 1 handily. And now Elsa Bergland to serve for the 3rd point as they lead 2-1, and that ball is in right at the line. And Elsa Bergland now off to a good start. Let's look at the replay to see how close that was. I think it got hit too. Actually, I think it did get hit by that back row player, number 8 for Hopkins. So Elsa Bergland going for the 3rd consecutive point, and that one goes long, way long. So point to Hopkins and a 3-2 deficit for them. As we await some substitutions by the Royals. Now in number 4 to serve. And she scores that as Bergland dives for it. Well-placed serve by number 4 for Hopkins as it got right in between the front and back line, and Bergland a little late reacting. Wasn't able to handle it, so we're tied at 3 here in game 2, and another serve attempt for Hopkins, number 4, and this time Bergland is ready for it. And, oh, a miscommunication between Howell and Windward, very unusual. Usually that's Windward's ball, since it would have been the 2nd hit. As you know, those that are watching, you get 3 hits on each side. And Windward is their premier center. So St. Louis Park, after that easy game 1, has to worry about a letdown here. They're not looking quite as sharp here early in game 2, and it's showing on the scoreboard. They're down 2 here. One problem with game 1, that might have been too easy for them, but you got to keep your edge even against lesser opponents. So you got to watch out for a letdown. Let's see if they wake up here now. Now Hannah Howell delivers, and there's your wake-up call. That's what the doctor ordered. And now Ward back to serve. Let's watch this play. And again, there's Windward with just the beautiful set as Howell comes in with all that momentum, jumping forward, bringing all that power with the whip of that kill shot. And now they're within one, and Addie Ward, the star server, to close out game one, goes long this time. And Park now down 6-4. Still early moments here of game two. Now back to serve. That's number 2 for Hopkins. And she does not do a jump serve. Now Windward, this time to Reagan Alexander. Blocked at the net, and down it goes. And Alexander gets credit for that. Nice set again by Windward. And now it's 5-6. So we look at Reagan Alexander, number 14. She's 6-foot junior, along with Kendall Coley. They anchor that front line with Windward and Howell and Faith Johnson. Elsie Berglund, their starters, and now Hopkins delivers, and it goes out. The kill shot attempt by number 14 misses the mark, and you wonder if Reagan Alexander, her leap there, altered that shot and forced it out. Credit to Reagan Alexander there for getting up in her face on that kill shot attempt, and we're tied at 6 now. St. Louis Park's Faith Johnson waiting for the go-ahead, and I like how they keep that arm up there, and I was just gonna say it usually leads to better accuracy, but that time it kind of went wide on her. So Hopkins now with a 1-point lead, back to serve. Number 12 looks for the whistle, and there she's got it. And the serve. And Howell goes deep and finds it just inside that back line. Well-placed ball there by Howell. She took something off of it too. You could just see that, and a little top spin heat on that. Got that ball to curve down just inside the line. Nice play by the junior outside hitter, Hannah Howell. Now she will serve. And here comes Hopkins. They got a chance, and they missed on the attempt. There was a set there, number 11 on the near side on Hopkins' side, the right side, just mistimed her jump. And now Hannah Howell will serve for the second consecutive time, and with their first lead in game two. And here comes the set again. This time she delivers on the jump and the shot, but there was a neutral zone violation, net violation. Oh, she palmed it was the call, thank you. And number 11, I recognize her from the basketball games. I don't think she's played volleyball before. All right, now here, Hannah Howell's third serve is in, and now she bumps it back. And Windward gets it to Berglund, who kicks it over. Oh, we got a point to Hopkins as there was a violation on Park. So the score 9-8. And 13 will serve for Hopkins. Maybe during the next break, I can recruit a Hopkins parent that might be able to fill me in on the names with the numbers. As that serve goes into the net for Hopkins, and it's now 10-8, and back to serve is Olivia Lanesbury, the junior, comes in just to serve once every 6, and she's good at it as she makes very few unforced errors. And there's a big spike attempt from the tall number 8 for Hopkins into the net, point to St. Louis Park, as they now open up their largest lead of game 2, and Lanesbury doing her job as a designated server, I guess is what I would refer to her as, like a designated hitter in baseball in the American League. And Hopkins unable to handle that, and they are struggling at the moment. Now down 4. This is about the period of time in game 1, and there's a timeout by the Royals as their coach, Vicki Swenson, senses St. Louis Park starting to really roll here in game 2, so oftentimes these timeouts stop the momentum, which gives us an opportunity to talk about St. Louis Park's future schedule, and there you can see it. Hopkins is who they're playing tonight, and as I mentioned at the beginning of our broadcast, this is the middle of a 3-match homestand for St. Louis Park. Last week they played St. Michael Albertville in a prolific, classic, legendary match, 3-2 with the win by just 2 points. So they'll get Robbinsdale Cooper next time, and then at Chaska, always a tough opponent. Bloomington Jefferson, Edina, and Chanhassen, all mostly Metro West teams. As they head into October, the big matchup comes up on October 15th when they play their arch rival, Cross Highway 100, Benilde St. Margaret's. ParkTV 16 Sports is planning on being there to bring you that one. It's the last game of the regular season. And now we come out of the timeout, and Faith Johnson back to serve, number 4. We'll see if the timeout does any good for the Royals in stopping the momentum of St. Louis Park. So lots of delay here, waiting for the whistle. And there it is. Amesbury gets it in. And Hopkins, and they get it over. Now Windward will give it to Berglund, and she tries to go right, but takes a little bit off of it. Hopkins has a chance, and another spike attempt and a block at the net by Windward and Coley. That ball goes deep, and nice place shot there by Hopkins. Well done. Was that number 8? I think it was. She doesn't do the spike, and she looks and sees the opening right down the line deep. Well done. Gives Hopkins their 9th point and the serve. They're within 3. So good timeout taken by the Royals that time. Does stop the momentum. Gains the serve, and now back to serve number 14. Ball off the ceiling. They do have low ceilings. Howell delivers a hard shot to the back row. Handled by Hopkins. Now they've got troubles. And it just barely gets over. Now Windward. This time to Hannah Howell from the back row steps up. And Kendall Coley tries to get it. And again, that ball was in the neutral zone. Always tough to play. Windward over to Hannah Howell, coming all the way up there. And nice bump there on the back row by number 12. And she is excited by that shot. Somewhat fortunate, however. And now that serve goes wide right. And the Royals give the service ball back to the Orioles. And that is Michaela Windward. She's their leadoff server in every match of every game of every match. And she has a 3-point lead midway through game 2. And that serve goes in, unable to handle it. Hopkins back row in the middle there, number 13. Now Windward will serve again. And that ball goes long. Little momentum there, little adrenaline pumping. So the score 14-11, and this was about the time of the match in game 1. Or I should say the time of the game in game 1 when St. Louis Park started to pull away. They won 25-12. It's 15-11 now here in game 2, and now they have the serve. Elsie Berglund, the sophomore, back to serve. And she delivers it to the back row, and the tip over. Hopkins will get a chance, and the spike attempt blocked is not good by St. Louis Park, so point for Hopkins. So this time the tall number 8, there she is. Incredibly tall there. You can see the height difference right there. It'll be interesting when we do basketball in the winter if she shows up on their team. I wish I could tell you who she is, and maybe during the break I'll get a parent from Hopkins around here to fill me in and we can fill you in. And Kendall Coley goes deep and unable to handle it. It's the back row for Hopkins. So now the score is 16-12. And back to serve is Addie Ward. She's a senior right there in the white shirt, pounding that ball. I like how she keeps that arm up all the way through the serve. It's an uncomfortable thing, but look at that, stays right there. Make sure she gets a consistent hit on that serve, and she scores as that poor, you know, it's really unfortunate. You can see there's an I-beam, well, almost right above the official's head there. Just, you can see it there, and that's kind of protrudes right in the middle, down about 4 feet from the rest of the ceiling. And is in play when they play as Ward serves with a 5-point lead, and that one goes wide right. now the ball, of course, goes back to the Royals, and back to serve is number 2 for Hopkins. We're all just a number when you get down to it, I guess. And number 2 serves. And Faith Johnson delivers the nice kill shot from the near right side. 6-point lead, no, 5-point lead. How's my math? And back to serve, Faith Johnson. So St. Louis Park cruising along here in game 2, trying to close it out. 6-point lead, or 5-point lead, I should say, and that ball goes in for Park. And that's where they're getting most of their points. It's kind of on these dicey plays. There seems to be an inordinate amount of those in this match. It's more a result, I think, of not great play, and they get in these no man's land when that ball kind of has no momentum and it's right around the net. Difficult to play. And that's where they're getting most of their points, as Howell delivers a nice dink shot there. She looked like she was going to go for the kill. There she is, Howell, the junior outside hitter. Just a solid starting lineup for Park, and they have been going with the same 6, really. Very few substitutions this match so far. And the spike attempt, Howell delivers the save windward, and they lack a communication between Johnson and Howell. And Howell wanted that one because it really wasted a great dig shot. I don't know if we'll see that on the replay, but for her, that serve had so much power on it, and for her to corral that, watch her take this. Bang, look at her control that ball and keep it in, and she wanted the credit for that, and then it got dropped in between, unfortunately. But what a great play by Howell. As that's Reagan Alexander does, nice job. Big smile from Reagan Alexander, 14, as she checks out. And now coming in is number 6, and we know her as the designated server, Olivia Lanesbury Jr., and another timeout by Hopkins. They're down 5, and St. Louis Park needs 5, so probably a last-ditch timeout here to try to change the momentum as we show you where you can find all of St. Louis Park's TV's channels and their programs and all the government here that the city of St. Louis Park sponsors, and actually the taxpayers sponsor. So we hope you're enjoying our broadcast here. I'm Robert Christensen, and this is our 3rd St. Louis Park volleyball match of the year. It's not going to be our last. They are really a good team this year with high hopes of going far in the sections and possibly the state tournament. These girls on St. Louis Park's team have been playing together now for a few years, if not longer, but at least at the varsity level. This is for many of them, it's their 3rd or 4th year of varsity experience. They were quite young when they started on the varsity team. And they're still a relatively young team with only a couple of seniors, still mostly juniors. Faith Johnson's a junior, Olivia Lanesbury's a junior, Kendall Coley's a junior, Reagan Alexander's a junior, Michaela Windward's a senior. They're gonna miss her next year. Hannah Howell's a junior, so times are looking bright for St. Louis Park High School varsity volleyball, and now here we are out of the timeout, and Lanesbury into serve, 5 points from game number 2. And that spike attempt by number 7 on the far side goes out. So Lanesbury now on a roll. Would love nothing better than to close this out with 4 straight serves right here. And that ball goes out. So it won't be on her serve as she checks out, and Reagan Alexander comes back in. And Addie Ward checks in. So lots of substitutions almost on every point. Now back to serve number 14 for Hopkins, and they've got their work cut out for them. They've got to outscore St. Louis Park basically better than 2-1 going down the stretch in game 2. Nice save by Windward, goes off the ceiling. And that's one of the limitations of the gymnasium here. So 17th point for Hopkins. They're still in it here as they're now down just 4. they still have to outscore them 2-1. Tall order here in game 2. If you're a Hopkins Royals fan, as Elsa Berglund dinks one over into the soft part of the zone. Defense by the Royals. And now they're just 3 points from victory in game 2 with their leadoff server, Michaela Winward. Gonna try to close it out with 3 consecutive points. She gets that one in. There's the spike. And they called it out. It was close. It certainly looked out to me, but very close as the very tall number 8 comes right up there and delivers a hard smash. And it didn't touch Michaela. She just got out of the way of that. Good for her. Now it's point 23. And they're 2 points from victory. And there's Kendall Coley, gets it over. Chance here for Hopkins. Unable to capitalize though, and here comes Winward to Elsa Berglund, and she delivers the kill shot. And there was a violation on St. Louis Park. So the point goes to Hopkins. As we mop up the floor, as I indicated, it's kind of humid today. Dew points were in the 60s, which is somewhat tropical. Highs of 78, 80 degrees in there. So the gymnasium is warmed up, and that means they're sweating a lot more. And when they hit the deck, got to be careful to mop it up so no one slips and gets hurt. As there's the serve by Hopkins, and now Faith Johnson looks for the soft spot, but Hopkins recovers, and now their kill shot goes way long. Coming up from the back row, number 13, and just to get to the ball, gave her a lot more power, and she hit it too hard as a result, and it went long, and now game point for Elsa Berglund and the Orioles in game 2. She gets it in. Hopkins, kill shot, blocked at the net. Ward, Howell have to dink it, blocked at the net. Ward, Elsie Berglund, Howell though from back. Gets it in, and Hopkins delivers. Nice play. That might have been the prettiest point, even though it wasn't in St. Louis Park's favor. Well played by both sides. It was actually the most enjoyable point, at least in my opinion, even though they lost. Just well played by both sides. Real nice, tight playing there. First time tonight, I'd say. I'm speaking more about Royals. They haven't been playing super well, but they're just now down 5, but it's game point again, and they stave it off. So they've saved now 2 game points if you want to make the comparison to tennis. If you know tennis, match points, break points. And now there's going to be a 3rd game point. But the odds are still great for Hopkins to pull this one out. They cannot make any errors. They've got to roll off 5 points in a row. Ball goes deep to Berglund. Now Michaela Winward to Hannah Howell, delivers the point in the win for game number 2. So although the Royals played better in game number 2, they still lose 25-20. Park up 2-0, come back for game number 3.
We are there, day 1, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens, to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Welcome back to the gymnasium at St. Louis Park High School and ParkTV 16 Sports production on location. Bringing you girls varsity volleyball, St. Louis Park versus Hopkins, and you can see there right on your screen, St. Louis Park is off to a 2-0 lead in this best-of-5 match. They come in 6-0, taking on big Hopkins High School and having their way with them. It's a warm night in the gymnasium. And I am Robert Christensen. Glad you're joining us as we're streaming live on YouTube. And if you're just joining us, St. Louis Park has a great volleyball team, very fun to watch, high expectations, lots of talent. And they are picking up right where they left off, coming in with a 6-0 undefeated record, trying to close this one out with a 2-0 lead in Hopkins. I don't have their names if you're just joining us. Unfortunately, I have names but no numbers in the program. The St. Louis Park gets game number 1. Or point number 1, I should say. And now Michaela Windward, their number 1 server, up 1-0, which is a little bit of a difference from games 1 and 2 where they gave up point number 1. So they're going to try to get the sweep here in this best-of-5 match. And whoa, what a kill shot by the front line of Hopkins. And St. Louis Park handles it beautifully. And now another chance. Another spike attempt, blocked at the net and unable to get it back over the net was Coley, and then diving, I think, was Windward, unable to save it. So 1-1. And now back to serve for Hopkins is number 1 for them. Hopkins comes in with a 2-0 record. They lost their first match to Lakeville North, beat Kennedy and Centennial. And that kill shot from the tall number 8 on the far side goes long. So Park now with a 2-1 lead, and Elsa Berglund, their only sophomore on the varsity, and she's a starter and a very good player, gets that first serve in, and that kill shot goes in for Hopkins. So that's number 8. And she is very tall. She might be 6'5". I don't know. It's hard to say from my vantage point, but she is visually much taller than everybody. And I know there's some 6-footers out there. And she looks markedly taller and a good player for Hopkins. And that ball gets into the soft part of the zone. Nice, smart play by the Orioles as Reagan Alexander checks in number 14. You can see Kendall Coley's checking out. Number 12, and there's Addie Ward, number 8 to serve. She served very well in game number 1. Probably scored the most points off her serve, and now she gets it in. She's always got a smile on their face. They just love playing it, and volleyball is a fun game, especially when you're winning and playing well. And it is fun to watch all these women play, and Addie Ward, look at the smile on her face. It's just constant. Tells you how much fun they're having out there. She gets that hand up there and serves. And there's a chance for Hopkins off the I-beam in the middle. And point to the Orioles as they open up a 3-point lead here early. And I'm afraid for the Royals, if they get down by several more points, they may just pack it in here. And Addie Ward, a little mistimed. It looked like her throw was a little low, much like a server's toss in tennis. You got to get that ball up there high enough. And I think that one was not quite high enough, and that's why the ball went into the net. So 5-3, number 2 for Hopkins, back to serve. Back row, Elsie Berglund. And the far side, Faith Johnson tried to do the soft shot there, and it worked. Nice job by Faith Johnson, the junior, coming up there, making this play. And now a 3-point lead again for the Royals, or excuse me, for the Orioles. And Faith Johnson in the headband, back to serve. She's one of the few that doesn't do a jump serve, and those jump serves are tough. And there's a violation on Royals as now they are down 4, 7-3. Faith Johnson back to serve. And that ball just didn't make it over the net. And back to serve number 12. And that serve is in, a nice knuckleball from her, and Hannah Howell will send it right back to her. She drills that ball in the far right-hand corner over there. Look at that, nice set by Windward, and look at her split the defense right down the middle. She split 4 players. Beautiful job by that woman right there, number 17, Hannah Howell. Now she'll get a chance to serve at 8-4. Ball off the ceiling. They play it well, and nicely done by number 14 at the front line by Hopkins. So they're still hanging tough. They're not giving up yet. They're only down 3 here in game 3. And now a substitution as their real tall player gets in. They're tall again around the net there. I think they're 3, and she's another tall one, number 13. I think they're all at least 6 feet tall. But at this point, not as skilled. That ball just gets over. Kind of a lucky shot, I would say, but it got over, and that's a point. And now Hopkins is just within 2. But boy, they've been on an uphill battle in each one of these games, and it must be getting tiring. They would love nothing better than to get a lead here in the middle of game 3, and they send that ball long. So just as they start to get some momentum, another unforced error on the serve by the Royals gives a point and the ball back. And now in for the first time tonight for the Orioles. Ivy Jones, the senior, will serve, and her first shot gets in. Nice job by Jones. And here comes the ball back, and Howell digs that out. That is amazing. Howell again handles it. And Coley delivers a kill shot, saved by Hopkins. Great point going on here now. Ball goes deep. Jones off the ceiling. Howell ahead to Berglund, goes deep. Hopkins with a chance. Number 8 delivers the shot, and I thought it looked out, but they're going to give the point to Hopkins. It was on the far side, and I'm on the near side, the same side as the camera angle. Let's see what it looks like here. Maybe it got touched. It may have gotten touched. Right. And I think it hit the line. Either way, nice point there for Hopkins. Now they're just down 2, number 14 to serve. And quickly, Howell. Berglund. Off the back row and out. So right away, the Orioles answer right back, and they have a 3-point lead at 10-7. And back to serve, their leadoff server, Michaela Windward. Their prolific setter and server. Senior gets that one again. And that spike attempt, ooh, she took a little something off that number 10 in the front row. And that caused St. Louis Park to be a little off balance. Nice job by her. And the Orioles now just up 2 here. And number 1 to serve for Hopkins. And that ball sails wide right and out of bounds. So just when they were trying to cut it to 1, they're now down 3. And that brings up that woman right there, Elsa Berglund, the sophomore. And she's got a great serve. Look at that. Lots of power. And there's some power. And there is the leverage of that tall woman, number 8. Look at that smile from her. Nothing feels better than this. Look at that shot. Bang. And it went straight down. No chance by the Orioles. And that is how dangerous number 8 can be. And she takes a seat. And now back to serve number 4. 2-point lead for the Orioles. So they are getting their stiffest test here in game 3 by the Hopkins Royals. So they're going to have to play their best to close this out, and that is a violation at the net in the neutral zone there. So now 1-point deficit by the Orioles. Or they have a 1-point lead here at 11-10. So this is as close as the Royals have been as we approach midway through a game. Elsie Berglund, nice job with the bump. The set to Howell. Saved by Hopkins, still alive, and they save it. Now a chance for the Orioles here. Set, Michaela to Howell, and she goes wide. And that's a point for Hopkins, and they've tied it at 11. And that is improvement for the Royals. They only scored 12 points in game 1. They scored 20, losing by 5 in game 2, and now they're tied at 11. Almost midway through game number 3, so the Orioles are going to have to really tighten it up here if they want to get a sweep tonight and get out of the gym early. And that ball sails wide out, so they are a little lax, and now their first deficit since the first deficit in game 3, all game 3, down 1, 12-11. Hopkins serves, gets it in, Berglund to windward, over to Faith Johnson, and that's blocked at the net. Point goes to the Orioles. Let's see what happened there. There's the, yep, it got through. I couldn't see that at first. Nice job by Faith Johnson getting that ball down despite that block attempt by the 2 frontline players for Hopkins. And that nice serve by Berglund gives them trouble. They do save it, and now, oh, Reagan Alexander, a miss hit there. Really served it up for the Royals to deliver that point. She will wish she had that back. And the Orioles are now down 1 once again, 13-12. We are at the halfway point exactly of game 3. And Reagan Alexander tries to answer. And Howell delivers. Saved by Royals, and they are playing much better handling those kill shots, and now the Orioles finally get a point. It's been a while. They've given up 4 or 5 in a row there. You look at Reagan Alexander, they finally right the ship, and right there with her, I think Howell also got a hand on that ball. And we're tied at 13. Faith Johnson back to serve. That's junior in the headband, and she delivers a point. And they're back in the lead by 1. And now checking back in for the Royals is their very tall player, number 8. She comes back into the front line on the near side, so the Orioles will have to account for her, and she asks for a towel. And there is some moisture on the floor. You can see she's wiping it up. And she must have noticed it coming in. It is very, very warm in the gymnasium tonight, as I had mentioned earlier. High humidity, so lots of sweating. And a slippery, yeah, they're locating another point there on the floor that needs to be mopped up. So just some housekeeping there on the Royals side, and they'll be ready to go. Faith Johnson to serve again. And she gets it to the back row, and the ball at the net, and again, can't save it. The Royals are obviously playing better here in game 3, tied at 14, trying to avoid being swept. Back to serve number 12, and we got a timeout, and I think this time it might have been taken by the Orioles as it is, and I think that's their first timeout of the night by Whitney Miriato-Simon, their head coach. As we look at where you can locate the City of St. Louis Park government on Facebook. All kinds of things for you to educate yourself and find out about what your government can do for you in this great City of St. Louis Park. As the Orioles are going to try to come out of this timeout and sweep the Royals as they're going for a sweep and their 7th consecutive win. Up till now, they beat Burnsville 3-1 to start the season way back on August 22nd. They beat Jordan 3-0, Coon Rapids on the road 3-0, Eastview, big Egan High School, Eastview 3-1, then Robbinsdale Armstrong 3-0, and then St. Michael Albertville was a big confidence booster. I think they'll look back at that match and depending on what happens the rest of the season, but I thought that was a huge match for their confidence, especially the way they won it against a very, very good team. Okay, out of the timeout, tied at 14. Hopkins back to serve, looking for their first win in this best-of-5 match. Ward, back row. Howell delivers the kill shot off the ceiling. Howell gets credit for that point. And Park, despite all that effort by the Royals, and it's got to be a little demoralizing, they still find themselves down 1 point, and Park needs just 10 more to win the match and get a sweep as Howell serves deep. Off the speaker and the ceiling, and it's no good for the Royals as they had no chance at that. And that really is because of the power of Hannah Howell's serve, is why that goes off the ceiling. Part of handling those tough serves are to, take a little power off that ball. And look at that kill shot by Hopkins, and they do deliver. Number 12, right there in the middle of your screen, delivers a beautiful shot there, keeping the Royals within one. They have the serve at 16-15. And that serve is in. Howell and Michaela Windward tried to sneak it, but it got blocked at the net by their number 8. So the Royals definitely improving here as this match goes along. And if you're an Orioles fan, boy, you really want to take out the Hopkins Royals in 3 here. You don't want to give them any type of inkling that they got a chance. And they are fighting hard here in game 3 to stave off elimination as Berglund delivers the kill shot for the point. And they go back up 1. And now back into serve, who did very well the last time they substituted her in as a designated server. Ivy Jones taking the place of Olivia Lanesbury, who usually comes in. And Ivy Jones delivers a nice serve. Royals, back row, Jones bumps it back, serves it up, saved. Howell saves it, it's gotta be over though. Berglund, and it hits that I-beam that extends down from the ceiling at least 3 feet. Gets the better of them. Well, it's their home court, so you live by the sword, you die by the sword. The sword in this case being that I-beam that extends down, but there's nothing they can do. An I-beam that probably supports the whole ceiling, at least to some degree. So I don't think there's going to be any modifications to the gymnasium in terms of the structure. And now we're mopping up here on the St. Louis Park side. That's Kendall Coley, number 12. There's Michaela Windward on the front line with her, and they're trying to close this out. We're tied at 17. And Howell really stretches to get that, and Berglund from the back. And she delivers. Elsie Berglund, the sophomore, has unbelievable talent. I mean, she's not even at the front line, and she is not the tallest player. I don't know what her height is, but she plays as if she's 6 feet or taller. And she just has a myriad of shots from all over the court. Ward, nice save, off the ceiling. Windward, Berglund, and Berglund gets away with that one. Well, she just had to save it, and Hopkins wasn't ready for it. And now it's 19-17. Here it is. So she just tried to save it. You can see the front line, and they didn't know what to do. And a timeout now, this time by the Royals. As their coach, Vicki Swenson, is going to try to talk them. You can see her standing this time. She's talking to the players, and we look at the Metro West regular season standings. Bloomington Jefferson, 9-4 overall. Look at all those games they've played. St. Louis Park, 6-0. How did Bloomington Jefferson play 13 matches already? It's unbelievable. And they're 1-0 in the conference. That'll be one to circle in our schedule coming up. Let's see, when Bloomington Jefferson coming up on Thursday, September 19th. Here at this gymnasium. I don't know if ParkTV 16 Sports will be there, but you can certainly come down and watch them. And if you would all like sports and competition and entertainment, St. Louis Park Volleyball is the place. Okay, now out of the timeout, Michaela Windward, their number 1 server, serves. Ball at the net, ball still alive, no whistle. Now off that I-beam and point. Boy, the I-beam is really playing a role in this match, more so than any other matches that I can remember being here for. And there's Michaela Windward. They're now 5 points from the match. Up by 3. Good timeout taken there. Been playing for almost an hour, a little more than an hour, so they're sweating even more, so we're taking more time to make sure that the court is safe. And that spike attempt delivered big time. Hopkins has talent. It just seems like it's raw talent. It's number 10, and again, I have the names, but I don't have the numbers in the program, and we were unable to get those, and again, we apologize for that. But number 10 there's a lot of talent on Hopkins. Look out for them in the future. They just look like they just need some more experience and some more training. As the serve now comes from Hopkins, and Faith Johnson delivers a shot, and that's gonna end up in a point as they're unable to handle it. Hopkins back row, that is. So that leads to the 21st point. And now we're 4 points from the match for the Orioles. And another timeout. So again, Hopkins, their coach Swenson, takes another timeout. She just took one a couple of minutes ago, but she knows the match is on the line as her team is down 2-0, and they are 4 points from getting swept in this match with St. Louis Park. As we look at their schedule coming up after tonight, they host south of Minneapolis, then they're on the road to Washburn, then they go back farther west to Minnetonka, then they're gonna have a big time match with St. Michael Albertville. That is a very good team. And then Chaska, I don't know how they're doing this year, but they're always a very good athletic school. So Hopkins has quite a tough schedule there as well. They have a 2-1 record, and if they go down tonight, they're gonna go to 2-2. St. Louis Park looking to go 7-0 to start the season, which has gotta be a record, I would guess, of some sort. Elsa Berglund back to serve out of the timeout, trying to close it out. The sophomore delivers a great serve to the back row, handled by Hopkins, and that dink shot hits the top of the net. Windward to Howell. Howell delivers, nice dig there by number 2 for Hopkins, and now the dink shot by Hopkins. Ward to Faith Johnson, blocked at the net, saved. And here comes a set and a chance for number 8, blocked at the net by Kendall Coley. And Hopkins does save it, but it goes wide right. What a point that was. St. Louis Park had to earn that. Great effort by the Royals as they are not dying easily here. Great high school spirit being displayed by both teams. Never say die attitude. It's one of the greatest things about high school sports is that energy and spirit, and that ball goes long on Elsie Berglund, giving Hopkins a chance here in an opening. But they are down 3, and St. Louis Park just needs 3, so they've got to outscore them 2-1 here going down the stretch. A tall order, but they're going to give it a shot here. And that ball is in off the ceiling. A lot of those tonight. Maybe it's the warm weather, I'm not sure. Now that dink goes way deep and out. Nice idea by that frontline player, number 10 for Hopkins. But she was unable to place it. It would have been a heck of a shot. Tried to hit it kind of like you'd throw a dart, but it went wide and out. And now Dana Warg in, and another spike attempt. Warg, nice bump. This could be a great opportunity. And Faith Johnson delivers the kill shot, blocked at the net. Chance for Hopkins. Dink shot goes wide. Warg has a hard time as it goes off her fingertips. Berglund went crashing into the near stands. Looks like she's all right. And we're at 23-20. And back to serve for Hopkins. They are still in this match. They only had 12 points in game 1, 20 points in game 2, and now they're at 20 here in game 3. So they have steadily gotten better as that shot by Faith Johnson is saved by Hopkins. They have definitely playing better here as this match goes along. Another reason why the Orioles don't want to mess around and end it right here. Ball goes over, saved by Warg, and now Hannah Howell, and that's too many hits. And now it's 23-21. Hopkins making a comeback here, trying to stay in the match. Back to serve number 2. And we got a delay, and now there's the whistle and the serve. Park still, though, just 2 minutes from the game in the match. That is a set that went a little too far. Ball at the net. And a chance now for the Royals, blocked at the net. Diving save by Windward, unable to come up with it, and now it's just a 1-point lead for the Orioles. As the Royals have made a great comeback here, but still find themselves down 1. They've got to play perfect to get through to game 4. Howell, though, with the delivery. And back off the back row there, and nice job by Hannah Howell. And now suddenly we're not only at game point, just like that, it's match point. Unlike tennis, you can score when it's not your serve. And now Faith Johnson, crowd on their feet. Match point, number 1. Ball is in. Hopkins on the verge of elimination, and they can't come up with it, and that's your 25th point. And game number 3 goes to the Orioles, and that is the match. So for Paul Broden, our producer, I'm Robert Christensen. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Your final score, 3-0 St. Louis Park. They go to 7-0 on the year.